Have you ever wondered why some people seem untouchable? No matter what happens, they don't get shaken, they don't react, they don't explode. They just smile, stay silent, and move on like nothing happened. That's not luck. That's power. A power that comes from mastering one simple thing: non-reaction. We live in a world that feeds off reactions. Someone disrespects you, and you're expected to shout back. Someone provokes you, and you're told to stand your ground. Social media teaches you that silence is weakness, and reacting fast is strength. But what if that's all wrong? What if the most powerful person in the room is the one who says nothing? Think about it. When someone tries to push your buttons and you don't respond, who really has control? When someone throws negativity your way and you stay calm, who really wins? The truth is, your ability to stay still, to stay silent, to not react, it's a sign of emotional mastery. It's not about letting things go because you're weak. It's about letting things pass because you're strong enough not to let them touch your peace. This world constantly demands your attention. It pokes your ego, challenges your pride, and dares you to respond. But here's the secret. Your real strength is in what you choose not to react to. Because every reaction is energy. And every time you react, you're giving someone else your energy. You're giving them your power. Ask yourself this: how many times have you regretted something you said in anger? How many times have you made a situation worse just because you reacted too fast? Now ask yourself this: how many times have you regretted staying calm? Almost never. Because silence gives you space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to choose your response instead of being dragged by emotion. Non-reaction isn't about ignoring the world, it's about rising above it. When you stop reacting, you start observing. You see things clearly. You start understanding people, not just judging them. You begin to notice patterns. And slowly, you stop wasting energy on things that don't deserve it. People will test you. Life will test you. Your mind will scream for a reaction. But that's the moment where growth happens. That's the moment where transformation begins. The moment you pause, breathe, and say nothing. That's the moment you level up. It's the moment you take back control. And in that moment, you're no longer their puppet. You're no longer a victim of your emotions. You become the master. Non-reaction is not passive. It's a conscious decision. It's power in its purest form. Because when you don't react, people get confused. They don't know how to control you. They don't know how to get a rise out of you. And that's when you start commanding respect without ever saying a word. Here's the truth. Most people never learn your silence is louder than your words. Your calm presence speaks volumes. Your ability to stay centered in chaos is rare. And rare is powerful. People don't forget those who stay calm when everyone else loses it. They don't forget the one who stayed grounded while the storm raged around them. So if you've been reacting to everything, if you've been letting others pull you into drama, conflict, and emotional chaos, it's time to stop. It's time to shift. Your peace is too expensive to trade for someone else's chaos. Your energy is too valuable to waste on meaningless fights. Mastering non-reaction isn't just about becoming stronger. It's about becoming unshakable. It's about building a mindset so powerful that no insult, no betrayal, no test can touch your inner calm. If you stay with this message, you'll learn exactly how to do that, step by step, mindset by mindset, until your silence becomes your weapon and your calm becomes your superpower. So keep watching, because what you're about to understand will change how you deal with people, how you protect your energy, and how you take back control of your life. This isn't just motivation. This is your moment to shift from reaction to power, from chaos to control, from noise to silence. And in that silence, you will find your true strength. Most people live on autopilot. Something happens and they react without thinking. It's not their fault. It's how the mind is conditioned. The brain is wired to protect, to defend, to attack when threatened. That's why you feel triggered so easily. Someone says something that touches your ego, and before you know it, you're arguing, yelling, proving a point. But here's the truth. Every time you react instantly, you're not in control. Your emotions are. The real reason we react so quickly is fear. Fear of looking weak, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing respect. So we jump to defend ourselves. But the strongest people aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who don't need to prove anything, because they know their worth doesn't depend on someone else's opinion. Non-reaction isn't about shutting down. It's about choosing not to let emotions hijack your decisions. It's about being aware of the trigger and deciding, I don't need to give this my energy. That awareness is everything. It's the gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, there's power. The power to choose calm over chaos, peace over drama, strength over ego. Your reactions reveal your emotional state. If someone can make you angry in seconds, they control you. If someone's words can ruin your whole day, they own your peace. But when you train your mind to pause, to observe, to stay still, you take that power back. You become emotionally free. That kind of control takes practice. It takes awareness. But the more you do it, the stronger you become. And soon, you'll start to notice something beautiful. The things that once triggered you no longer do. The people who used to drain you can't touch your energy because you've outgrown the need to react. You've found something deeper, something unshakable. That's the start of real power. Every time you react, you give away a piece of your power. Think about that. When someone triggers you and you respond with anger, frustration, or fear, you're handing over control. You're letting their actions shape your emotions. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery. But when you stay calm, when you pause instead of explode, you keep your power where it belongs, with you. Reacting may feel good in the moment. It feeds the ego. It gives the illusion of control. But afterward, you often feel drained, regretful, or even embarrassed. Why? Because your reaction wasn't a decision, it was a reflex. And reflexes come from pain, not power. Real power is quiet. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to defend itself. It stands tall in silence. There's a huge cost to always reacting. You lose peace. You lose clarity. You damage relationships. You say things you don't mean. You carry the weight of emotions that weren't even yours to begin with. And the worst part is, you become predictable, easy to control. People learn what triggers you and they use it. But when you become non-reactive, you become unpredictable, unshakable. You confuse the ones who try to get a reaction. And that confusion is power. Non-reaction builds strength from the inside out. It forces you to stop looking outward for validation and start building inner stability. You no longer chase respect. You command it through presence, through stillness. People notice when you don't flinch in the face of chaos. They feel your energy, even in silence. That energy speaks louder than any words ever could. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming conscious. It's about choosing where your attention goes and who deserves your energy. Not everything needs a reaction. Not every insult needs a reply. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. That's when you've truly mastered yourself. When you stop reacting, something powerful happens. You start listening, not just to others, but to yourself. You begin to hear your inner voice more clearly. You understand what triggers you, what drains you, and what no longer serves you. That level of awareness can only grow in silence. It doesn't come when you're constantly defending, explaining, or proving something. It comes when you create space between you and the chaos. That space is where wisdom lives. It's where clarity is born. Because in the heat of reaction, everything is blurry. You can't think clearly when your emotions are running wild. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you hold that reaction back, you start to see things as they are, not as your emotions paint them. That's when your decisions become intentional. That's when your actions come from strength, not survival. People often think reacting shows that you care. But reacting doesn't mean you're strong or passionate. Sometimes it just means you're emotionally impulsive. True care, true leadership, true maturity comes from restraint. It comes from knowing when to speak and when silence carries more weight. You don't need to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding because your energy isn't for free and your peace is too precious. When you learn to respond instead of react, everything changes. You stop being ruled by the moment. You stop being pulled into every emotional storm. You become the calm in the chaos. People notice it. They respect it. Because they can feel that you're not easily moved. And that makes you magnetic. That makes you powerful. Non-reaction is a form of leadership. It's self-leadership. It shows that you don't need external control to stay centered. You've built that strength within. And when you lead yourself with discipline and silence, the world follows your energy without you needing to force a thing. The world will always test your emotions. Someone will disrespect you. Someone will lie about you. Someone will try to bring you down just to feel better about themselves. That's reality. But here's the difference. When you master non-reaction, you stop playing their game. You stop handing your power to people who thrive on drama. You choose silence, not because you're afraid, but because you refuse to lower your energy for things that don't matter. And that choice gives you freedom. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom from being manipulated. Freedom from constantly being pulled in every direction. You start living on your own terms. You decide how you feel. You decide what deserves your attention. And in that control, you find peace. A kind of peace that doesn't depend on how people treat you. A kind of peace that comes from knowing you own yourself fully. Most people aren't strong enough to be silent. They react because it's easier. It's easier to yell than to understand. It's easier to fight than to walk away. But easy doesn't build strength. Easy doesn't build peace. Choosing non-reaction is hard at first. It feels unnatural. It feels like you're losing. But what you're really doing is building a muscle, emotional discipline. And every time you choose silence over chaos, you're getting stronger. Every time you walk away with your head high instead of fighting back, you're growing. You don't have to attend every battle. Some things are beneath you now. Some people are not worth your words. When you stay grounded, when you don't respond to the noise, you're telling the world one powerful truth. You know who you are. And when you know who you are, nothing can shake you. Not opinions, not insults, not lies. This is how you rise. Not by proving people wrong, not by reacting to every challenge, but by standing tall, staying calm, and showing through your actions that your peace is your power. That's when people start watching in silence, because nothing is more powerful than a person who refuses to be moved. When you no longer react, people begin to notice something different about you. They sense a shift in your energy. You become harder to read, harder to control, and impossible to shake. That's when your presence becomes powerful. Not because you're louder, but because your silence holds weight. You no longer need to defend yourself, because your peace speaks louder than any argument ever could. People expect a reaction. They expect you to break, to snap, to fight back. But when you stay calm, when you meet their chaos with stillness, you create a mirror. They're forced to face themselves, their own anger, their own insecurity. And that reflection is uncomfortable. That's why silence is so powerful. It reveals the truth, not just to them, but to you. You start to see who actually respects you, who understands your worth, and who only came to feed off your reactions. Non-reaction teaches you that not everything deserves your time. Not every comment deserves a reply. Your energy is valuable. Your peace is expensive. And you get to choose how to spend it. When you become selective, when you start valuing your calm more than your pride, your whole life begins to shift. You attract peace. You attract people who respect boundaries. You stop chasing validation and start walking in self-respect. That's the level of control most people never reach, because they're too busy reacting to every little thing. But if you can learn to pause, to breathe, to observe without reacting, you step into rare power. You no longer fight battles that aren't yours. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. And you rise above the noise. This isn't weakness, it's mastery. Mastery over your emotions, over your mind, over your energy. And once you taste that kind of control, you'll never go back. Because peace is addictive. And silence, when chosen with intention, is one of the loudest forms of strength you'll ever know. Silence trains your mind to respond from wisdom, not wounds. When you master non-reaction, you're no longer reacting from past pain. You're not letting old stories, childhood scars, or past betrayals control your present. Instead, you're grounded in who you are now, not who you were when you got hurt. That shift changes everything. You become someone who moves with intention, not emotion. There's a quiet confidence in people who don't react. It's not that they don't feel, it's that they've learned to filter their feelings through awareness. They ask themselves, is this worth my peace, before saying a word? They know that most arguments aren't about truth, they're about ego. And fighting every battle doesn't make you strong. Sometimes true power is walking away and letting silence carry the message. Non-reaction creates emotional distance, and that distance gives you perspective. It allows you to see situations from a higher level. You no longer get stuck in the drama. You don't lose sleep over what was said. You don't keep replaying the moment in your mind because you've learned that your energy is too precious to waste on temporary emotions and people who don't value your growth. People will always try to test your limits. Some will try to make you feel small because they haven't found their own power yet. But when you don't react, you show them they can't pull you into their storm. You become the calm they can't understand. And that calm becomes your shield. Choosing not to react doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your inner peace than winning an argument. It means you trust yourself enough to know you don't have to prove anything. And when you live like that, you stop being a prisoner of your emotions. You start becoming the master of your own life. That's real strength. That's real freedom. Non-reaction gives you time. Time to think. Time to choose the right response instead of reacting out of habit. Most people rush to speak, rush to defend, rush to fight back because they're uncomfortable with silence. But silence is where your real power grows. It slows down the moment. It gives your mind the space it needs to rise above the noise. That pause between what happens and what you choose to do, that's where transformation begins. In that small space, you take your control back. You become the observer instead of the reactor. And the more you practice it, the more it becomes your nature. You don't flinch when someone disrespects you. You don't feel the need to explain yourself every time someone misunderstands you. You begin to realize that not everything needs your attention. Some things are just meant to pass by, unnoticed, untouched, unbothered. People may not understand at first. They might think your silence is weakness. They might see it as avoidance. Let them misread you. Because it's not your job to explain your peace. It's your job to protect it. When you don't react, you are no longer playing defense. You're not letting someone else decide how your day will go, how your energy will be spent, or how you'll feel about yourself. You start responding only when something truly matters. And even then, you choose words carefully. You move with clarity, not chaos. That's what makes you unshakable. You're no longer controlled by circumstances. You're not giving the world a remote control to your emotions. You hold that power now. And it shows in the way you carry yourself. Over time, your silence becomes your boundary. People learn what triggers you no longer work. They see that they can't throw you off balance. And in a world full of noise, your calm becomes unforgettable. That kind of presence doesn't shout. It doesn't need to. It's felt. It's respected. It's rare. When you no longer react to the noise around you, something powerful begins to shift inside. You start trusting yourself more. You stop second-guessing your worth based on how others treat you. Your self-esteem no longer depends on approval, attention, or praise. It grows from within, rooted in the discipline of self-control. Because every time you choose peace over reaction, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than the moment. That quiet strength builds a different kind of confidence. It's not loud or flashy. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. It shows up in how you carry yourself when no one's watching. It shows up in how you hold your emotions in check, even when the world gives you every reason to explode. That's not suppression. That's mastery. You're not ignoring your emotions. You're guiding them. You're telling your mind what matters and what doesn't. And people start to feel that. They notice the way you don't get rattled, the way you don't give in to provocation. You're no longer emotionally available for nonsense. That's what separates leaders from followers. Most people are reacting to life like it's a game of ping pong, constantly responding, constantly defending. But you've stepped out of the game. You're not bouncing between opinions anymore. You're anchored in truth. That anchor is what gives you stability. It keeps you steady when life gets hard, when people disappoint you, when situations don't go your way. You've trained yourself to respond with purpose, not pain. And that changes the outcome of everything. You get to live from a place of clarity. You get to lead with wisdom. And the best part, you're no longer drained by meaningless battles. Because not reacting doesn't mean you're passive. It means you're powerful enough to choose your battles. You've risen above the noise. And now, nothing can pull you back into a life ruled by chaos. You've found something most people spend their whole lives chasing. Inner peace that doesn't depend on anything outside of you. When you choose not to react, you begin to rewrite the story of your life. You stop being a character in other people's drama and start becoming the author of your own destiny. This isn't about ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It's about taking control of your inner world so external chaos can't shake you. The moment you realize that your reaction is a choice, your power returns. You understand that your emotions don't have to control your actions. You create a pause between what happens and how you respond. In that pause lies your freedom. Freedom from impulsive words you'll regret. Freedom from burning bridges with people who don't deserve your energy. Freedom from the exhaustion that comes from endless battles. When you master this, you no longer carry the weight of others' opinions or insults. Non-reaction is a shield, not a wall. It protects you without cutting you off from life. You remain fully present, fully aware, but you no longer get caught in the trap of instant responses. You listen more, observe more, and understand more. You begin to see the deeper reasons behind people's actions, insecurities, fears, pain. This understanding doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you stay calm. It helps you keep your power. This mindset shifts how you handle conflict. Instead of escalating tension, you diffuse it with your calm. Instead of feeding anger, you starve it with silence. People who want to provoke you lose their power. Your peace becomes their frustration because they realize they can't pull you into their storm. That's when respect grows. Not forced respect, but the kind that comes from recognizing real strength. Mastering non-reaction isn't about perfection. You will still feel anger, hurt, or disappointment, but you won't act on those feelings impulsively. You learn to sit with them, to understand them, and to let them pass without causing damage. That's how you become powerful. Not by eliminating emotions, but by mastering your response to them. This power is quiet, steady, and unstoppable. True power comes from knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. When you master non-reaction, you become selective with your energy. You no longer waste it on every slight or insult. Instead, you save it for what truly matters. This doesn't mean you ignore injustice or allow others to walk over you. It means you respond with intention, not impulse. This level of control transforms your relationships. People start seeing you differently. They recognize your strength in how you carry yourself through conflict. You become someone others turn to for calm in chaos. Your non-reaction is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of wisdom. It shows you understand the value of your peace more than the need to be right. Non-reaction also builds resilience. Life will test you repeatedly. People will push your buttons, sometimes deliberately. But when you choose to stay steady, you train your mind to withstand storms. This mental toughness grows each time you resist the urge to react. You're building a foundation of inner strength that no external force can break. It's important to remember that mastering non-reaction is a practice. You won't always get it right. There will be moments when old habits try to pull you back into reaction. But each time you choose calm over chaos, you reinforce your power. You become less reactive and more intentional. Over time, this becomes your natural way of being. This power ripples through every part of your life. You handle challenges with grace. You communicate with clarity. You make decisions from a place of calm, not fear. And most importantly, you protect your peace fiercely. Because you know that true power isn't about control over others. It's control over yourself. That control is the foundation of lasting success and happiness. Mastering non-reaction is not about shutting down your emotions. It's about choosing which emotions you give power to. Feelings like anger, frustration, or jealousy are natural, but how you respond to them shapes your reality. When you pause before reacting, you create a space to decide if these feelings deserve your energy, or if they are distractions from your true purpose. This pause is a powerful tool. It lets you step back from the immediate rush of emotion and see the bigger picture. You start to realize that many situations aren't personal attacks, but reflections of other people's struggles. This understanding softens your reactions. You no longer take things so personally because you see beyond the surface. Non-reaction also helps you break free from the need to control outcomes. When you stop reacting impulsively, you stop trying to control every situation or person around you. This acceptance brings freedom. It allows you to focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your choices, your attitude, and that focus is where your true power lies. With practice, you learn to respond rather than react. Responding means you act with awareness and intention.